Well, hello again, everybody, and welcome into the Shelby County High School Football Show alongside Andrew Simonson. I am Alec Etheridge, and it's a big, big week ahead, the final week of region play for the 2025 season. Early on a Tuesday morning, coming to you from Briarwood Christian School, a nice, brisk morning. And Andrew, we finally got some football weather. Feels a little bit too late in the season for this, but we had some big games last week. We got the final week of region play this week, the final week of the regular season, and the postseason right around the corner. So what are you looking for as we go into this final week of region play?
Well, we got two teams that can go ahead and lock up region titles. One of them will need a little bit help in the Briarwood Christian Lions. They'll take on Hayden later in our game of the week. They got to take care of business and then get a little bit of help from Carver Birmingham in order to lock up that region championship. And then you have Thompson that is still in a region title fight after that thriller last week at Hoover that I had the pleasure of watching. Not often you see a 55-yard field goal, so have to give a lot of credit for that, but that just threw this season in a lot of turmoil for Thompson.
Yeah, Class 7A Region 3, if Thompson were to lose to Prattville this week, much more on that game soon, but if they were to lose that matchup, then Class 7A Region 3, I don't even want to look into right now because of the chaos that's going to ensue there. But Thompson can take care of business, win a game this week against Prattville. They walk away with the region championship, and like I said, we'll talk a little bit more about that. I think that's going to be an angry bunch of Thompson Warriors that take the field this Friday. The Briarwood Lions, though, like you said, if they can win this matchup, if Corner loses in a battle against Carver Birmingham, Briarwood also a chance to win a region championship. Beyond that, the slate, we don't have a ton of action this week from the stance of making the playoffs, winning region championships. It's really those two games that have a little bit of meaning this week. But all these teams, a lot of them have locked up playoff spots, want to continue their momentum, and some just looking to build some confidence going in to the offseason. But a big week last week. Thompson falls in that game to Hoover, 33-30. Last-second field goal there, 55 yards. They have to, like I said, beat Prattville to win the region championship this year. Helena, they pick up that big win. 2 wins in a row now for the Huskies as they take down Chelsea. We'll talk a little bit more about them and what that means for the Huskies as well. And Spain Park, they lock up the 2 seed last week in Class 6A Region 3. So a big showing from the Jaguars last week as well. A lot of teams playing some really good football right now at the right time of the season as we inch toward the playoffs. But we're going to jump in, talk about this final week of region play and what it means for a few of our teams, and obviously what's ahead for several of them as we wind down the regular season as well. So we're going to jump in. We're going to start with our game of the week with the Briarwood Lions taking on Hayden. Well, we start with the game right here at Briarwood Christian School as the Lions going to take on Hayden this Friday night in a big matchup between these two teams. And on paper, the Lions should be a heavy favorite, but it's really what happens away from here that's going to have everybody's attention. Corner taking on Carver out of Birmingham. If Carver wins that game and Briarwood wins this one against Hayden, the Briarwood Lions will walk away as region champions. So a huge opportunity for Corner as they take on Carver this week to win a region championship, but also for Briarwood to take care of business right here against Hayden in a game that they should be able to walk away as winners in. Before we talk about this game, though, we got to tell you about 3D Air Services, and since 2005, 3D Air Services has proudly called Shelby County home. They're more than just your trusted HVAC company. They're your neighbors, friends, and supporters, from keeping your home comfortable year-round to sponsoring local schools and athletic programs. They're committed to making a difference in our community. As proud sponsors of the Briarwood Lions, 3D Air believes in the power of teamwork, dedication, and community spirit, values they carry with them in every job they do. 3D Air Services, your trusted neighbor, keeping Shelby County comfortable, one home at a time. Well, Andrew, on paper, Briarwood Andrew, I combined that there real quick for you. Brandrew, I like it. But on paper, Briarwood looks like they are the runaway favorite in this matchup. A Hayden team that's sitting at 0-9 right now, just not playing great football. Only way Briarwood loses this one, in my opinion, is if they're thinking too much about what's happening down the road and they just don't stay focused on this week, which I don't see that happening.
We've seen this Briarwood team struggle in matchups that we thought they would have been easier favorites in throughout the season. I think back to the Winona game a little bit, obviously a little bit of a tougher challenge, but a game that they really had to fight for throughout it. And then even the John Carroll game, a little bit of a slow start over there was really what kept them from making that game into a wire-to-wire dominant victory. Obviously, both of those games ended up in Briarwood's favor, but you look back at the season overall, it's just been a little bit inconsistent, and especially on the defensive side, which we don't usually expect to see out of this Briarwood team. We expect them to lead with the defense, and with the talent that they have on the defensive side, guys like Garrett Witherington, a future SEC guy, Sam Canali, one of the best corners in the entire county, you expect this unit to be better and more consistent, and this is a great opportunity for them to do so, get some momentum heading into next week as well as the playoffs, because they've got a Hayden team that hasn't won a game all season. They're scoring just 15 points a game overall, so we'll have to see how this defense comes out and tries to get a week under its belt where it has the upper hand coming off of the bye, and being able to string together some momentum going into the playoffs. And you also have a massive game next week against McAdory, which, while it's a non-region game, that is a very, very good offense, and one that will ask you a lot of questions of this defense going into a matchup against what's looking to either be Jacksonville or Leeds.
Yeah.
And those will be really tough tests, one of which was already a one-point game earlier in the season during non-region play in the Leeds game. So this is a team that needs to use this week, get focused, and also take care of business, because you do have stakes attached to this game. It is potentially for a region championship should Corner and Carver go the way that you want it to. So it's all about coming out, showing out, getting focus, and doing what you need to do in order to win the game, not just in order to win the region championship, although that would be crucial and very, very great for this team if they were able to do so after the season that they've had, but also to just generate that momentum, like I said, going into the postseason.
And I mean, I gather from you, no issue in this game pretty much, but what it can mean from them down the road, basically. Yeah.
Exactly. I favor Briarwood by a few touchdowns in this one, but you do have to come out and make sure that this game is what you think it's going to be. There are no free games anywhere, even against a Hayden team that you think is probably going to roll over and show them it's a Hayden team that's going to be going for its first win of the season, its last game of the season, and they'll want to play spoiler. So expect a motivated team, although an outmatched one.
Yeah, and that to me, it's kind of what you pointed at down the road. How good is this Briarwood team going to be against McAdory, a very good football team, next week? But then as you get into the postseason, with at least the 2 seed out of this region and a home playoff game in that first round, this is a team in Briarwood that has shown at times this year they can be a threat. They can be a team that makes a run in the 5A playoffs toward a state championship, but it comes down to them putting both sides of the football together at the same time. Early in the season, it was the defense. Then the offense finally started to come along, and the defense kind of fell backwards. So they've got to put both of those pieces together if they want to be a team that goes on a strong run in the postseason. And that starts this week. This is a team that you outmatch from a personnel standpoint. You got to go out there and play like that on the football field. The defense should have its best game that we've seen in a long time against this Hayden offense, scoring just 15.9 points per game. And speaking of the other side of the ball, the offense should also have one of its better performances of the year. It's a Hayden defense is giving up almost 50 points per game at 46. So Briarwood should have success in this one, and they need to replicate. They basically need it to be what those numbers say. I would say 46 points offensively and less than 15 points defensively that they give up. So if they can come out and play like that in this football game, a team that's determined, that's going to bode well for them going into that McAdory game, which is going to be a tall task, and then into the postseason after that. So a great opportunity for the Lions this week to just get better. Coming off of a bye week, I think they'll do just that, and then they'll look to finish the season strong next week against McAdory. But a team that can gain some confidence this week and get back to that team that we think can make a deep postseason run here in the 5A classification. Well, for the Thompson Warriors, it's quite simple. Win this one, you win the region championship. Lose this one, and it's a complete toss-up. It's not in your hands anymore as to what's going to shake out at the end of this week. And it's a great opportunity for the Warriors against a pretty solid Prattville team, an improved Prattville team. And I'll go on my little rant and soapbox here in just a second. But before we do that, before we talk about this matchup, we got to tell you about Wayne's Pest Control. Wayne's Pest Control proudly sponsoring the Thompson Warriors this year on the Shelby County High School football show. And while the Thompson Warriors are playing defense against their opponent, Wayne's Pest Control is playing defense for your home. This football season, don't let mosquitoes, fleas, or ticks sideline your family's outdoor fun. Wayne's environmentally safe mosquito treatments will keep your yard clear, and their affordable Mosquito Plus program will also eliminate fleas and ticks. Protect your family and pets today and take the bite out of the great outdoors. For quality service and peace of mind, trust Wayne's Pest Control. Call 866-WAYNES1 or visit callwaynes.com to learn more. And Andrew, I go back to the first line of that Wayne's read. While the Thompson Warriors are playing defense against their opponent, where was the defense on Friday night? This is a team that prides itself. If their offense scores 20-plus points, they've done enough to win the football game. Week in, week out. That is what they pride themselves on. It's the third time this season they've played a good enough football team. The offense has played well enough, and the defense at times in those same games has played well enough to win football games against the best teams, not only in this state, but you go back to the Grayson team and one of the best teams in the country. They were the better team in that matchup. They were the better team against Clay Chalkville. They were the better team against Hoover, and they had chances to put their foot down, win those football games, and close them out, and they couldn't close them out. And a lot of that rides on the offense making a big play to really put it away, or the defense coming out and just doing their job and finishing the game. And we have not seen that in their biggest games this year unless they can build those big leads like they've done against Vestavia, against Hewitt-Trussville. So what gives when you look at this matchup against Hoover last week, who, all credit to Hoover, came out and played a great football game, best game of the season from them, and then they get that benefit at the end of having the ball last and kicking that incredible field goal.
Well, I'm not going to absolve the offense completely because I said it on Twitter and I'll say it again. That was the second worst performance that you could imagine from that offense on the last drive. 3 runs up the gut, 9 yards, and you have to punt it away in negative territory. And you punt it away to about midfield, and they only have to drive just a few yards in order to set up, albeit a long field goal. I'll give them some credit for making it into 55 yards.
And going back to that, too, they're putting their defense in a bad position there, but at the same time, they're also trying not to take chances because they trust in their defense to get a stop in that situation. And credit to Hoover making a 55-yard field goal. You don't expect that to happen week in and week out. But at the same time, you've got to put yourself in better position. Shouldn't have been a game like that at that point anyway.
The defense, outside of a few plays, I look back at a Noah Streeter sack and a few other big plays to force a few punts. The defense was by and large non-existent on Friday night, and that cannot happen. It's the thing that you don't expect to happen, especially on a team where you look at every single level of the defense, and there are future Power 4 guys, and that is just a statement of fact. Every single one of those guys either has a Power 4 offer at one of the position groups, or they're going to, and it's one of the most talent-laden defenses I've ever seen. Albeit a little bit of a step down from years past just because you don't have a lineman or back of the year winner within there, in my opinion. But just overall, this is a team that should establish itself up front. Guys like Ami Moala, guys like Cam Pritchett, guys like Noah Streeter, and you got guys like DeMonte Tab who can go out and match up against the guys like Jeremiah Tab, like Jonah Winston. And those are the guys you're going to be facing down the road because you look at this pairing right now. Class 7A Region 3 is paired up with Class 7A Region 2 this year. That means you get Opelika first round most likely, and semifinals is going to be Central. That is the number 1 team in the state, and there are no other questions about it, especially after what happened to Thompson this past week. So guys like Hoover, obviously, they're a top 5 team in Class 7A, but you're going to be facing teams like that, top 10 teams, each step of the way now through the state championship game. And Prattville's right there borderline on them. I gave them a vote this week in the poll because they've played some solid football, especially offensively, the last 2 weeks. They capitalized on their opportunities against Hewitt-Trussville, picked up a win there, got into an absolute shootout with Hillcrest-Tuscaloosa, pulled away there, and now they're in a position now where they can make the playoffs, sneak into this playoff region that's really been kind of hard stuck with the teams in the Birmingham area, guys like Hewitt, guys like Hoover, guys like Vestavia, always taking up those bottom 3 spots. But now you have a team like Prattville who can sneak in there just because of the body of work that they've done, and they're going to be incredibly hungry, and you cannot take this challenge lightly. Maybe in the past, especially last year, this was a game that was a little bit of a gimme, one that didn't really mean a whole lot. Thompson kind of had its positioning locked in going into this matchup last year after the loss to Hoover. But now this year, it has all the stakes in the world for both teams, and both teams need to come out and play like it.
Yeah, and I mean, Prattville, they're a good football team this year. Thompson is the better team in this matchup. If they go out and play their game and they play to their level of talent, they are the better team. But if they slack off at all, Prattville's a team this year. In the past, they may not have been able to capitalize. They're a team this year that can capitalize. And, real quick, before I shift in fully to this matchup and we start looking ahead to this game, we've covered Thompson a lot. I've covered them for a little bit longer, and they know the expectation. They know the standard. Me calling them out is nothing that they probably haven't already heard this week, but it's also something they're going to use as fuel and motivation. I know head coach Mark Freeman very well, and what motivates him, what motivates these teams. If I, pick in favor of them, it's the rat poison. If anybody else picks in favor of them, it's the rat poison. But if you call them out like this, they use that as fuel, and they make sure you know about it after the fact. We'll talk about it a little bit more later on with Helena as well and what they've done to finish the season strong. But they're going to use moments like this, but the expectation is better than what they put out there on Friday night, and they know that. And so I'm not saying anything that's something that they don't understand. They know the expectation is a state championship, and they've got to play better. And I expect that's what we're going to see. I think we're going to see them come out this week and be a team of fury in a matchup like this, ready to knock heads off, basically. And that's what they need to show. They need to prove that point against a Prattville team that has played some good football this season. So, Andrew, as we shift into this game, and, all the possibilities are out there from the outcome, but matchup on paper, what is it that Prattville can do to cause some issues for Thompson if they want to have a chance to win this game?
They have to get out to a fast start on offense. It's a team that you look overall, you kind of compare it a little bit to the Alabama defense in that they're going to have a little bit of a lighter first drive where they're almost downloading information about the offense. They might give up a score, but they'll usually bounce back after that. If they're able to get a score starting out and then snowball that into a couple, then you really have a Thompson team that's on the ropes and has to make plays throughout the game. Credit to Trent Seaborn. He's been making those plays, been very efficient, been able to get into the end zone and spreading the ball out to his receivers. And not a ton of mistakes from him overall on the season. It's been a very good pass game, but with the run game still unable to establish itself, that's where I expect Prattville to also try and establish itself. But you also, look, I said this last week going into the game for Prattville, Oak Mountain going up against Hewitt-Trussville, when Hewitt-Trussville had just given up a lot of rushing yards to Prattville. That's where you need to focus as a Thompson defense, is make sure that you control the run game, make sure that you control this team on defense, because this game is going to be won overall based on who has the better defense. I think that Thompson has the better defense, but I also don't know about this team, especially when it comes to a close game. I was texting with my dad over the weekend, sent him the video of the field goal, and the one thing that he asked me was, why is a team as good as Thompson finding itself in so many close games and losing so many close games? If you have this team up by 10, you're probably going to end up winning the game. But it's when that game gets down to a one-score territory where we've seen Thompson lose 6 games over the last couple of years. Yep. And that's really been its kryptonite over the last couple of years, is those games down in crunch time, they haven't always delivered, and they haven't delivered more than they have delivered. So if this game goes down to the wire, I'm really, really interested to seeing how this Thompson team shows up in its regular season finale, because they do have a bye week next week, how they're able to perform in a tight situation on the road in what's sure to be a hostile and motivated environment. I do think that Thompson is going to have enough to win this game and probably win it by double digits, but I don't know what to believe anymore.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is they can do that all regular season, but this is about the time where the switch flips. And then they get into the postseason. You talk about Central Phoenix City in the semifinals as a possibility, or whatever the postseason holds. And then they go out there and they win these games by 14, 17, 20-plus points. And they just somehow figure it out at the right time. And that's what they've been doing all season. So I give them a hard time at the beginning of the segment, but I know they're working through things. And it's eventually, I think, going to piece together to make, because I still don't think we've seen them. We've seen them put together some good performances against Vestavia, against Hewitt-Trussville. I still don't think they've reached their peak this year. I think they have a ton more potential out there, which is what's so scary and what's so dangerous. They just have to collectively come together and believe in that, and then go out there, and it becomes about effort. I mean, at that point, it just becomes about giving full effort, having the right game plan, and they're going to put it together when the time matters. I think that kind of starts to take shape this week because they know what mode they're getting into now. So you're going to see a little bit of a different team in this matchup. I think one that's determined, one that's upset, and looking to prove us wrong, other doubters wrong right now, and they're going to turn into postseason mode here in the next couple weeks. But yeah, Thompson's offense is going to score points. We know that. This is a Prattville defense giving up 25-plus points per game. So Thompson's going to score some points in this. It's just a matter of the defense coming out and playing, getting back to the standard that we've seen throughout this season, throughout the last several seasons, and I think they're going to get back to that standard this week. I think, Prattville's riding that wave of momentum with the wins over Hillcrest and Hewitt-Trussville in the last couple of weeks. It's a good football team. Thompson's not going to take them for granted, and especially with a bye week going into the playoffs. They're going to be ready to roll in this one. It's just a matter of refocusing, having a good week of practice, trusting the game plan and the preparation, and going out there and proving that you're a team that's still ready to compete for the Class 7A state championship. And I think they are. It's just a matter of them figuring everything out and piecing it together for that, gelled together team that's going to make a deep playoff run. So we'll see if they can figure it all out this week. Coming off of that heartbreaking loss to Hoover last week, I think this team not going to be one that sulks. They never are. We've talked about it in the past. You lose a game, this is a team that bounces back with fury, and I think we see that this week against Prattville. Was the final region game of the season for the Oak Mountain Eagles as they take on Hillcrest-Tuscaloosa on the road this week ahead of that big showdown with Chelsea to end their season next week. So a good opportunity for the Eagles to get better. Before we talk about this one, we got to tell you about Wayne's Pest Control. And while the Oak Mountain Eagles are playing defense against their opponent, Wayne's Pest Control is playing defense for your home. This football season, don't let mosquitoes, fleas, or ticks sideline your family's outdoor fun. Wayne's environmentally safe mosquito treatments will keep your yard clear, and their affordable Mosquito Plus program will also eliminate fleas and ticks. Protect your family and pets today and take the bite out of the great outdoors. For quality service and peace of mind, trust Wayne's Pest Control. Call 866-WAYNES-1 or visit callwaynes.com to learn more. Well, Andrew, this is a matchup of two teams where Hillcrest has lost 2 in a row, 4 of the last 6. A good football team, though. Oak Mountain has lost 3 in a row and 5 of the last 6. So something's got to give in this one. Both kind of struggling near the end of the season, but both looking to build some momentum and confidence as they head into the final week of the regular season and obviously the off season. The big difference to me, defensively, I think these teams are pretty decent, and it's probably it's arguably the best side of the ball for both teams. But offensively, Oak Mountain seems to be a step behind where Hillcrest is.
Well, but even with that, they've had a great last couple of weeks. 2 of the last 3 weeks. You look especially at what they were able to do late against Hoover. Obviously, you then go and you get shut out by Vestavia. But then last week against Hewitt-Trussville, I think this team exceeded expectations and were able to hang in that game a lot better than I thought they would against a Hewitt team that was number 1 in the state for a portion of the season. So big credit to Oak Mountain for being able to show itself well within that matchup. But now you do have a tough road trip against a Hillcrest team that has been kind of on the border of the top 10. I've certainly given them votes throughout the year. But overall, obviously Jaden Aparicio-Bailey picking up that injury last week. We don't know if he's going to go or not, if it's a multi-week injury or just a little knock on him. But I think that could be a potential key here because we've seen this Hillcrest offense get into some absolute shootouts this year. They obviously just had one against Prattville, and then they've also come out and beaten Hoover thanks to a really fast start from them on the offensive side. They scored 30 points a game overall, and they've been very solid on the offensive side as a whole this season. So I think while the Oak Mountain defense has been a lot better this season, and I think they definitely deserve some credit for doing so, especially if you're potentially without one of your top guys in Aparicio-Bailey, how are you going to challenge this Hillcrest defense? And I think that's a big storyline going into this one because while the Oak Mountain offense has certainly improved enough to be able to contend within this game, I'm not sure if it's going to be enough to overcome a shorthanded defense on the road against a Hillcrest team as dynamic as we've seen. I
agree. I think Hillcrest, 14 points per game differential there when you look at the offensive side. Hillcrest scoring 30, Oak Mountain scoring about 16 to 17 points per game. and that to me, that's just too big of a gap when they both played very similar schedules at this point. I do think closer, as the old saying goes with Lee Corso in college game, closer than the experts think in this one. I think Oak Mountain has improved enough offensively as the season has gone along that they can make this a close football game, but Hillcrest is just a better team right now at this point in the season. But if you get in a shootout game like you mentioned, Oak Mountain is going to be right there ready to battle in this one. And I do think they've shown improvement the way they played last week. They don't give up either. They show that fight throughout. Doesn't matter who you're playing, how far down you are, they're going to fight until the end. I do think Oak Mountain shows that this week, and then they're able to make this a 2-score game, possibly turn into a 1-score game in the second half to make this one interesting at the end of the night. But we'll see how it unfolds. I just think Hillcrest right now a little bit better, a little bit more experienced. I think they will walk away with a win in this tight battle. Well, how about the Helena Huskies picking up their second win in a row, and it comes against the Chelsea Hornets with a playoff spot basically on the line in that matchup. And it was the second win in a row. The week before that, they take down Pelham. They'd had win streaks against both of them. I thought the win streak against Pelham would come to an end. They win that one in thrilling fashion, and then they come out. They're trailing Chelsea at the half last week in a 9-7 game. A very weird first half in that one. But then they come out and outscore the Hornets 14-0 in the second half and just looked like the better team. Made the big-time plays. Defense stood up with their backs against the wall on a couple of occasions. Made some big plays defensively. And then Dom Santiago with a huge performance running the football. And Caleb Soriano, a beautiful touchdown pass there to Davis Kelly. And they were able to work Nate Ferguson back in from his injury a little bit as he's trying to get a little bit of mix in the action there when you look at this offense and what they're going to do down the stretch. And now they get Calera. They've locked up the 3 seed. They've gone from out of the playoffs to the 3 seed from Class 6A Region 3. But they get a Calera team. It's their final region game of the season. Not going to the playoffs, but a great opportunity for the Calera Eagles, who have also improved on the season so far. Before we talk about this matchup, though, we got to tell you about Oak Mountain Hearing, who are proud sponsors of the Helena Huskies on this year's high school football show. And don't let hearing loss bench you this season. At Oak Mountain Hearing, we help you stay in the game so you don't miss a single play. Whether you need help with hearing aids, hearing loss, or tinnitus, Oak Mountain Hearing is here to help. Now open in Pelham, call 205-728-1690 to set up your consultation. Don't let hearing issues affect your well-being. Hear every word effortlessly with Oak Mountain Hearing. 205-728-1690 or oakmountainhearing.com. Andrew, you've seen both of these teams this year. Helena is starting to click. They're feeling it. They use the negativity that we said a lot of the times and that others had talked about them, basically losing to Pelham and that streak coming to an end, a team that was down and out with the tough schedule they played, no chance of getting in the playoffs at that point, and now they've won 2 in a row. They look like a team that we expected. That's the thing. We were hard on them because we had expectations for the talent that they had on this year's team to be better than they were throughout the season, and they flashed it against Moody in that big non-region game, and then they come back and lay an egg against Oxford, and then all of a sudden, somehow, that Oxford game, I think, flipped the switch for them. This is a team that's playing better football, but on the other end of this matchup, Calera also has improved throughout the season as well.
Yeah, you have two of these teams that I think are playing some of their best football right now, and I think should come out and do a really entertaining matchup on Friday night. And you have this Helena team overall that I think has been much improved over the course of the season. You especially look on the defensive side. They had a lot of growing up to do, I think, especially up front, but they've shown over the last few weeks that they have the talent and they have the playmakers, and they now have the drive to be able to go out and make plays, get stops, and do so throughout the game, especially late. You look at this team, such a second-half team in a very good way, being able to go in, make those adjustments at half, and then come out and put together an improved performance. We saw that last week against Chelsea. We saw that the week before against Pelham. And it's a team that overall is playing a lot of really good football right now. But you have a Calera team that's won 2 of its last 3, albeit against lighter competition against Chilton County and Brookwood. Had a little bit of a setback last week in a lopsided loss to Spain Park, but really no shame there. The Jags are one of the classes of Class 6A for a reason. and you look at these teams overall, they both have really good run games. You look at Calera and Jordan Henderson. He's done a phenomenal job paving the way. Jordan Ward being able to get some rushing yards in behind him, and his arm has been able to make some big plays as well. And then I think you have a Helena team that's pretty similarly built as well. Dom Santiago has really proven over the last few weeks that he's been able to take the lead back role that he was given going into this season. And then you look at this team overall, and you have Caleb Soriano able to make plays, make consistent good passes, and his big play potential, it's starting to grow.
Yeah. I look at this game, and Calera's won 2 of the last 3. Helena's won 2 in a row. They've got momentum, and you look at the stats from a scoring and defense standpoint. Calera scoring 24.6. That's about 6 more points per game than Helena scoring right now. But the other side of this matchup, Calera giving up 34.5 points per game, Helena giving up just 26 points per game. So one side of the ball is going to make a difference here. It's either going to be Helena's defense or Calera's offense. I think that's the matchup you have to watch in this game, is which one shows up ready to play. Is it going to be that Helena defense? Is it going to be the Calera offense that's able to make plays against that very good Helena defense? And then on the other end of that, really to me what it boils down to is, I say all that, Helena is starting to play their football. It's a team that wants to come out, be physical, run the football, set up the second half to where you've worn down the defense and your own defense is, one, refreshed and rested, but ready to come out and make adjustments and be big. So to me, they did that against Pelham. They came back and won that game. They did that against Chelsea. They came back and won that game. They're a second-half team. They set up that second half from the opening whistle, and I think you could see Calera sneak out of the gate here and have some momentum, and then it comes down to Helena basically doing that again this week.
Yeah, I think the biggest key here is if Calera is able to establish the run early and keep that defense on the field, then they might not have that advantage as much as you say that they will, because a big part of what Helena is really able to do from a defensive side is have short-ish drives in the first half before really clicking on in the second half on the defensive side. And that's really what they're going to have to do, is control time of possession and make sure that their guys are the fresher guys going in down the stretch so that they can pull away down the stretch of the game as well. And it's a Calera team that's been a little bit streaky at times too, and I think is more of a second half team as well. So we could see both of these teams gearing towards their best stretch of the game late, which could make for a really entertaining ball game. But I think overall, Helena just has the momentum on its side, and it's playing with such a tough nose and aggressiveness that it's going to be able to attack this game and use it as that preparation, as its last big test going into the playoffs. They have Tarrant next week, a little bit of a bye game for them, and then you go into a tough playoff test on the road. They're going to need this game to be able to keep things going and then prove that they can take out a pretty good rushing attack and offense in Calera.
And a good chance that they get McAdory again in the opening round of the playoffs, and they want that. They want that matchup. They want to win that football game. But you don't want to lose any momentum in a game like this. And Helena should be the better team, should win this game. I think Calera is really going to come out and play a good football game in this match. I think it's going to be a close game, and Calera is going to have their opportunities. But like you, I think Helena is starting to ride that momentum. I think they're going to finish strong here at the end of the season. I think the Eagles also going to play well in this game, also finishing strong, going to carry some of that momentum into the offseason. But right now, Helena just getting that confidence back up is what they needed to match the talent they had this year, and we're finally starting to see that. So we'll see if that translates for the Huskies into this matchup, but it should be a great game here, a county battle between Helena and Calera. Well, for the Spain Park Jaguars, they've locked up the 2 seed here in Class 6A Region 3, so a home playoff game coming for them in just a couple of weeks. And this is a matchup against Chilton County where they should be the easy favorites in this game, as Chilton County sits at 1-8 overall this season. Before we tell you about this game, we got to tell you about Wayne's Pest Control proudly sponsoring the Spain Park Jaguars. And while the Jags are playing defense against their opponent, Wayne's Pest Control is playing defense for your home. This football season, don't let mosquitoes, fleas, or ticks sideline your family's outdoor fun. Wayne's environmentally safe mosquito treatments will keep your yard clear, and their affordable Mosquito Plus program will also eliminate fleas and ticks. Protect your family and pets today and take the bite. out of the great outdoors. For quality service and peace of mind, trust Wayne's Pest Control. Call 866-WAYNES-1 or visit callwaynes.com to learn more. Well, Andrew, this one seems like a pretty much like a mere formality here, as the Jaguars just the better team in this matchup, sitting at 6-2 overall, scoring 35.8 points per game, giving up 15.6 points per game. You can almost flip that completely around for Chilton County, with the Tigers scoring 10.9 points per game, giving up 30.6 points per game. Losers of 6 in a row. They're 1-8 on the season. Spain Park simply just the better team in this matchup.
Exactly. I expect this matchup to go down a lot like the Calera matchup last week, although Calera able to find success in some aspects. Last week, it's a Chilton County team that really doesn't have much to offer on either side of the ball. I expect the defense to show out, have a good, strong performance, and pave the way for another great offensive performance from Brock Bradley and company. We've seen this offense just absolutely take off in the last few weeks. Ken Arrigo really stepped up as that number one receiver, like I believed he would be going into the season. Still believe he's an all-state guy. He's only backed me up throughout the season. And then Mason McClure developing right alongside him as that really dynamic number two option who can do just about anything, including the reverse. And speaking of that run game, you got a really solid dynamic duo coming back right now. You got J.D. Thompson now sliding in alongside Hudson Hibbert, and if you got a little bit of a 1-2 punch, taking some loads off of those guys, we've seen that work to success recently with the Shanks brothers. I think this team likes to have multiple running options to take some stuff off the pass game. And if you think this Spain Park offense is done, I really think they can reach another level now that they have that run game back in order. Big win for Spain Park.
Yeah, they've got basically 3 running backs that can run the ball. They've got 2 or 3 receivers who are good in space. And that's the big thing. Brock Bradley having a balance that really opens things up for one of the best quarterbacks in the state. Mason McClure's been great. Ken Arrigo's been great. This is a team that is continuing, I think, to reach new levels. And, you're having to guard all facets of the game defensively. And in high school football, that's what makes great teams great. They make you guard the entire field from a defensive perspective because you've got playmakers at both sides of the receiver and you've got the threat of a running game. So that's going to be the challenge for a lot of teams. As Spain Park, I think, getting better and better and better. This is a team that the playoff schedule is going to be extremely difficult. They're going to run into some tough tests, but a team that can make a run toward a 6A state championship if everything comes together correctly for the Jaguars. But, in this matchup, shouldn't be an issue. A good opportunity for them to come out, really establish things early, and try to get some experience for some other guys as they inch toward the playoffs. But expect Spain Park to put together one of their better performances of the year going into this matchup as they take on Chilton County. All things considered, really not a bad season for the Chelsea Hornets, sitting at 5-3, but just a couple of weeks ago only had one loss to Pelham early in the season, and now they've lost to Spain Park and Helena, and they're going to sadly miss the playoffs here this season. A Chelsea team that can be pretty dynamic at running the football, a pretty physical bunch on the defensive side, but in the biggest games of the season, taking on Pelham, taking on Spain Park, and taking on Helena, They scored 7 points in those games. 7 points against Pelham and Spain Park, 9 this past week against Helena, and led that game against the Huskies 9-7 at the half. But then they get outscored 14-0 in the second half. So just couldn't really ever put together that strong offensive stretch that they needed in their biggest games. And now they close out region play with their toughest opponent of the season, region champion Benjamin Russell. A very good football team. But the good thing is nothing to lose in this matchup. It means nothing from the perspective of the scope of this season. What it can do is help you continue to set the standard and build toward the future of this program. If you're able to compete with Benjamin Russell, that says a lot going into the offseason.
And what's more, the Wildcats have been down the last few weeks. Over the last 3 weeks, which one of those weeks was their bye week, they struggled a little bit against Helena, weren't able to put together their best offensive performance, kind of led the way on the defensive side there. And then Pelham hung around for a while against
Yeah.
Benjamin Russell last week out there on the road in Alex City. So I'm really interested to see if this Chelsea team is able to capitalize on that opportunity. But like you said, I don't think the offense has really been there this season. I mean, we still talk about Chase Malone, and for good reason. He's the guy who leads the way for his team.
Yeah, him being injured a little bit too, I don't think helped them. He didn't get to have as big of an impact the last 2 weeks in their two biggest games. Didn't play at all against Spain Park, and then against Helena was very limited. And Morgan Barnes still was able to play some good football, but you just know what's coming. You don't have that 1-2 punch. Yeah, that impacted them.
Exactly. That's what's made Barnes and Malone so special together, is the fact that they're able to offset each other and be able to do complementary things on the ground. And you take one part out of the equation and the other part usually suffers. And unfortunately this season, that's been Malone being able to be out or limited in those last couple of region games. And just overall, it's not really a team that I think has been able to gel well on the offensive side and step up in those big moments against the tough competition. I think Chelsea has one of its better opportunities to do so here for the reasons like I mentioned earlier, Ben Russell not being as strong as they usually are. But if this Wildcats team comes out, plays motivated, and they're near their peak, I would very much look out, because it's a team that can hurt you in a lot of different ways. They're very dynamic on the offensive side, very diverse between the run and the pass. And there's a lot of ways that they can test this Chelsea defense, so I expect them to have a bit of a stronger performance. So it's going to be about how Chelsea rises to match that. I don't think they're going to be able to do so in this matchup, especially now without the added motivation of going into the playoffs as well. But always open to surprises in the last week of region play.
And this is a Benjamin Russell team that, as difficult as 6A is going to be to win this year, some of the best teams in the state, regardless of classification in the 6A classification this year, Benjamin Russell's a team that can make a deep playoff run. Spain Park's a team that can make a deep playoff run. So you've got a couple of teams in this region that can make those kind of runs, and Ben Russell being one of them. They're a very good football team. And to me, it boils down to what we've already said. They're giving up just 16.9 points per game. Chelsea struggling to score points in their biggest games so far this season. I think that's what really hampers them in this one. But if they can come out and get 2 or 3 yards of play running the football and then bust for maybe 5-6 yards after that and sustain long drives, keep that talented Benjamin Russell offense off the field, that to me their best chance at success in this matchup. It's one thing to say it, it's another thing to do it. They got to put that game plan in place this week and go out and actually make it happen. So it's a tall task against a very good Benjamin Russell defense. We'll see if Chelsea has a surprise left for us here to close out region play with a big matchup against Benjamin Russell. It's a pretty fun game here between Pelham and Leeds this week. This is one of those kind of end-of-season, non-region games that can really amp some teams up because, you know, both their playoff fates are sealed, both headed to the postseason, both, I believe, as 4 seeds out of their regions as well. And so this is the kind of game that can get some momentum back for both these teams. Both had so much promise out of the gate. Pelham with that 3-game winning streak right there early on. Leeds, a team that I believe 4-0 out of the gate early in the season. And then both have kind of faltered a little bit here late, not playing their best football, but still showing a lot of promise in those matchups. So this is a big game where they can both get a little bit of momentum back here as they inch toward the postseason. Before we talk about this game, we got to tell you about 3D Air Services, proud sponsors of the Pelham Panthers. And since 2005, they've proudly called Shelby County home. They're more than just your trusted HVAC company. They're your neighbors, friends, and supporters. From keeping your home comfortable year-round to sponsoring local schools and athletic programs, they're committed to making a difference in our community. As proud sponsors of the Pelham Panthers, 3D Air believes in the power of teamwork, dedication, and community spirit, values they carry with them in every job they do. 3D Air Services, your trusted neighbor, keeping Shelby County comfortable, one home at a time. We finally got a little bit of cool air out here this morning too, so that heat's going to crank on soon. Make sure to give 3D Air Services a call to take care of all your HVAC needs there in Shelby County. But Pelham Leeds, a game both very, to me, 5A Leeds, 6A Pelham, they're actually pretty level from a competitive standpoint. I don't know which way this game's going to go. I think it could go either way when you look at the way these two teams have played. What it really boils down to me, I know Dylan Smith battling an injury, not sure what that looks like at this point in time, but he's a key fixture for this Pelham offense and what they like to do, so his health may be a big factor in this game. But Andrew, what do you see when you look at this matchup between Pelham and Leeds?
I agree with you. This game is going to be decided on the offensive side, and it's going to be decided based on the quarterback position at Pelham, because I think you saw the offense fall off a little bit against Ben Russell after he exited the game. Obviously, that could just be some growing pains, and if they're able to get a full week of practice together without him, that might lead to some more success against a Leeds team that is a little vulnerable at times on the defense, but is overall a very solid and very well-rounded team that's probably right up there on the borderline of being a top 10 team, as they usually are within Class 5A. Jerry Hood always coaches his team very well and gets his team up for big games like this, and they acclimated themselves well to a big game a couple weeks ago, facing Moody, only losing by 3 in a game that I thought was going to be a lot more lopsided than it was going to, and then also challenging another top 10 team in St. Clair County as well. So this Leeds team has firepower for days and can hurt you very quickly in a lot of different ways, especially through the air. I saw them being able to get out some big pass plays against Briarwood that really decided that game. If this Pelham defense doesn't show out to play, and especially the secondary, it could be a long night overall, but I don't expect that to be the case. I think that Pelham comes out, has a good game on defense, and is able to set the tone there. It's just going to be a matter of the offense is able to rise up, and that means the run game has to get very much involved, ride Tristan Rutledge early, kind of like they were able to do against Helena, ask some questions from them up front, and then see if that leads to a path to victory. This game is an absolute toss-up for me. I'm leaning Leeds just because they feel like the more certain pick right now, but we've seen Pelham have success in this before.
Yeah, I think if Smith goes, if he's healthy, then Pelham can win this game. And I think they will win this game in that situation. But if it were me and he's going to come back this season, he's going to be the guy you go to in the playoffs, to me, there's no reason to risk anything this week. Get him rested, get everybody ready for what's ahead in the playoffs in a couple of weeks with a challenging matchup there. So to me, I think that's just from my mindset. So I think that you may see a Leeds team come out a little bit more full strength in this game. So for me, that's the only difference maker right now, but it's a toss-up. I mean, it could go either way at the end of the day. They're both so similar defensively. Pelham's so improved on that side of the ball. I think that keeps them in it throughout the night, and then it just becomes a matter of who makes that play late in the second half. So it should be a lot of fun in this matchup. The battle of the greens here, the greenies there of the Leeds Green Wave, and then a little bit darker shade of green out there at Pelham and the Pelham Panthers. Should be a fantastic football game here between the Panthers and the Green Wave. It's a great chance to build some confidence for either one of these programs as Montevallo takes on Jemison this week, and the winner will be able to avoid finishing in last place in this region. So when you look at growth, when you look at gaining experience, building some confidence and momentum going into the offseason, this is going to be an important matchup for both of these teams with a chance to gain a little bit of confidence there. Before we talk about it, I got to tell you about Montevallo Main Street, proud sponsors of the Bulldogs on this year's high school football show. Whether it's Friday Night Lights or a quiet Saturday stroll, there's always something special happening on Montevallo Main Street. From unique shops and local dining to community tradition and small town charm, it's the kind of place where neighbors gather and Bulldog pride runs deep. Make downtown part of your routine before the game, after the game, and all year long. And we got some great events coming up. Art Stalk returns on October 25th, a Halloween-themed art walk with live music, vendors, and fun for all ages. And then right after that, the day after Halloween, Saturday, November 1st, come back for the Day of the Dead Festival, a colorful celebration of culture with traditional altars, food vendors, dancing, and live music right there at the Pecan Grove. So some great events coming up in the fall season. Montevallo is a beautiful town you want to check out this time of year, so make sure you get down to Montevallo Main Street. Andrew, something's got to give in this one. Bulldogs, they've lost 7 in a row since winning that opener 14-6. Jemison, they've also struggled 1-7 overall. They've lost 5 in a row. You know, both these teams have struggled to score points. They're both giving up a lot of points. What gives in this one?
It's an interesting matchup for that reason, but I think Montevallo has been progressing on the offensive side recently, and that's really what I think is going to give them a very good chance within this matchup. We saw them finish the game well against Sipsey Valley after giving up a lot to start out with. They were able to get a little bit going early on against Shelby County, and those past couple weeks, 2 of their best offensive performances of the season even surpassing that win against Tarrant that is still their lone win of the season. So to me, the biggest difference maker is, can the defense get a couple stops? Not asking for a complete performance, just asking for a couple of stops. You look at this defense overall, and it's a young, developing unit that's kind of been struggling a little bit. I think that's really been the focus down the stretch, is to be able to get the defense some reps and just get them to a point where they can be more comfortable making plays and make some stops against these 5A teams that Montevallo may well face in the coming years. So definitely looking for some improvement on that side. And I think they're going to get enough in this matchup. I'm going to come out and say it. I think that the improvements that Montevallo has made, especially in the run game, is going to be able to pave the way, get them enough over the line to pave the way for a shootout win against Jemison.
Okay, yeah, I mean, they've got the opportunity there, so it's there for the taking for them to go out, make the plays, and win the football game this week. I think when you look at it, this is a Jemison team that's playing a little bit better offensively. They're playing a little bit better defensively, very slightly on the defensive side.
Right.
Both defenses have struggled pretty mightily, but they're scoring 9 more points per game on the offensive side. I think that ultimately is what can make a difference in this game. Montevallo's offense, while they're improving, 21 points, 28 points in their last 2 games. That's been a big difference maker for them to show some improvement there. So I do think that's going to help them in the long run. As they start to build some momentum, it's going to be something that helps them obviously going into next year. But right now we've seen it against the same schedule. We've seen Jemison show a little bit more promise consistently on the offensive side of the football, and I think ultimately that's the difference maker in this game. I think that little bit of edge they have offensively is what takes the Panthers over the top in this one. But it's a toss-up. I mean, it's like you said, Montevallo could very easily, with that running game, they could come out and set the tone early in this matchup, create a little bit of a lead. If they can play with the lead, there's no telling what can happen at that point. But right now, just feel like Jemison showed a little bit more consistency on the offensive side. So we'll see how that one plays out. Should be a really good game here between these two teams. They look to build some momentum here late in the season. The Vincent Yellow Jackets, they lock up the 2 seed here in Class 2A, Region 5 last week after taking down Isabella 33-28 in a great football game there between those two teams. That was a huge win for Vincent, Andrew, and Jackets. They're 6-2 overall now, 4-1 in this region. This, though, a matchup that could be sneaky for them. This is a Greene County team that's a good football team. They've played some consistent football so far throughout the season. Vincent, though, looks like the better team. It's just a matter of not losing focus in a game like this.
We've seen this from Coach Weatherford throughout the last couple of years since Vincent was placed into this region. There's really not an off week in this schedule.
Yeah.
Even with that easier games against Lamar County and Aliceville earlier in the season, you have these teams like Greene County who look a little bit down overall, but that's just because they played some really solid teams like Vincent, like Sulligent, like Tuscaloosa Academy, and like Isabella. Obviously, this Vincent matchup now coming this week, and is going to be a big test for the Bulldogs in this affair, but I think the Jackets are just playing some great football right now. They face an Isabella team that we've had some high hopes for going into the season, and they really took the fight to a really good Jackets defense overall. And with their backs against the wall, a few cards down for the Vincent Yellow Jackets, this is a team that rose to the challenge and really did so late with the kind of resilient spirit that they're going to need in the postseason. We saw them lose some close games in the playoffs the last few seasons. They're able to get performances like this in the playoffs. There's no telling how far this team could go. Maybe even the quarterfinals. I'm going to say it could actually happen this year. So definitely interested to see how this team performs down the stretch and in this matchup. I think the defense overall, they're going to come out and have a bounce back performance overall, mainly because they need to.
Yeah.
I think after giving up a few touchdowns last week against Isabella, they'll want a good performance here and against Montevallo to finish out the season, to go into that first round matchup against Falkville and feeling really good about their playoff chances.
Yeah, I mean, Vincent's the better team here. It's just a matter of not losing that focus. We saw a year ago a similar situation and what happened there, but I think that helps them in this matchup this year. That game last week was back and forth throughout. That was a great win for Vincent, and I think that's the exact kind of win they needed to build their momentum, to win a close game like that. This is a team that has just been so good, so consistent throughout the season, And to see a performance like that where you can win a tight football game is a big deal. But it really boils down to the defense. The defense is such a strong suit for this Vincent football team, giving up 16.9 points per game. You're taking on an offense that's scoring just north of 20 points per game at 23. The defense has started to become a little bit more inconsistent at times, but it's still the highlight of this team and what they're able to do on that side of the football. So I think the defense comes out, plays a good football game, and if they do that, I think regardless they win the game, even if the offense doesn't have its best night. So I think the defense comes out, plays well, and I think the offense is able to string together enough plays here to be able to pick up another win. But the 2 seed's locked up, so that's the thing. You got to stay focused. You can't lose the focus in a game like this because you're already in good shape, and I don't think they will. And it's a testament to what Coach Weatherford's built here at Vincent. I mean, if they had this region a few years ago, winning a region game would have been impressive. And now they're sitting here as the 2 seed, home field advantage going into the playoffs out of one of the more challenging 2A regions. So a great showing from start to finish this year so far for the Vincent Yellow Jackets, but it's not done. I say start to finish, start to now, start to current, because the job's not finished and they know that they've got a lot of excitement ahead. I think that continues here on Friday night in this matchup against Greene County. Now we jump into our AISA and ACSC breakdown, and it's been one of the more exciting stretches for our AISA and ACSC teams in recent years. Coosa Valley's playing some good football. Cornerstone's played 2 of the best teams in the state the last 2 weeks, and while they've lost 2 in a row, still a team last week that impressed me in that loss to Macon East. And then the Evangel Lightning have hit their stretch after some early season struggles, and they've become one of the top teams in the not just the ACSC, but back to the 8-man level when you look at 8-man football teams. So, Andrew, we've got 3 more big ones this week. Cornerstone at Heritage, Coosa Valley at Macon East, and Evangel hosting Trinity. So let's go through these 3 games real quick. I'll let you kick it off with Cornerstone at Heritage.
Yeah, it's a performance that I kind of called for last week. After that lopsided loss to Escambia, I really wanted to see this Cornerstone team perform well against one of the best teams in the entire state in Macon East, and they absolutely did so. It's a Macon East team that absolutely dominant on the offensive side, and they stood toe-to-toe with them throughout the game, only getting a very close loss in the end. Those are the kind of results that they're going to need down the stretch. Obviously, Macon East and Escambia now going to be playing for that top spot within the region, so we're interested to see how that matchup plays out. But now it's just all about regaining momentum going into the playoffs. You've got these 2 matchups against Heritage and North River, 2 much easier tests, 2 teams that are very much struggling and will end up missing the playoffs out of this region. And then from there, it's 3 matchups to the championship. So going to be interested to see how this team performs down the stretch. I think they get a resilient defensive performance this week. They bounce back in that regard against a Heritage team that hasn't really had much going on that side of the ball. I think if they're able to get a couple of good defensive performances these next couple of weeks, that carries into the playoffs, and then from there, who knows? This could be a good unit come down the line.
I think the next 2 weeks, just chalk them up, their wins. This is a stretch where these 2 teams in Heritage and North River combined 1-16 this week. The winless of those 2 teams in Heritage at 0-8. I think Cornerstone, what they did against Macon East, that's a really good football team, bouncing back from that losing streak or that winning streak ending the week before that was, I think, at 20 games. To have that snapped and bounce back and perform the way they did a week later, even in a loss against Macon East, I think if those 2 teams meet again, I think Cornerstone may actually win that matchup down the road now in the postseason. Going to be a tall task to repeat as state champions, but right now I think this Cornerstone team's starting to get better even with the 2-game losing streak. So I like the Chargers there in that matchup against Heritage.
Yeah, and then so now we go down the line to Macon East again as they now host another county team in Coosa Valley. And it could be an interesting matchup overall. Coosa Valley's offense shown a lot of firepower, and they've had some good performances throughout the season. Going to have them positioned as possibly one of the top 4 teams in the region. I haven't exactly checked the region standings. I know it's very tight there with a bunch of teams around 500, so very curious to see how that shakes out, but they'll need a good performance this week against Macon East to improve those chances. But I think it's the defense from this Macon East team that's going to make the difference. Still allowing about 10 points per game. That number went up last week with what Cornerstone was able to put on it. So I definitely think that Coosa Valley will have a good performance here, and I think they'll show themselves well. But I think Macon East set for a win at home.
I agree. Yeah, I think that this is a game that, a year or two ago was going to be a blowout. And now they can compete in a game like this. I don't think they win it. I think Macon East is the better team. You look at the standings right now, what they've done track record-wise, sitting at 8-0. Just a tall task. But Coosa Valley's improved. I think they can compete in this matchup. But Macon East is the better team right now. I like them in this one.
Definitely. And then we'll move down to Evangel Trinity down there in the ACSC. For Evangel, Trinity now joined a different conference and has overall played decent football, better. They've gotten a win on the season and then showed themselves well against other state powers like Jacksonville Christian, like Cornerstone Rainsville. So I do think that Evangel, though, they played the much tougher competition, and they have all the momentum in the world.
Yep.
This is a team that is going to be an absolute threat. I think they're going to sweep the ACSC playoffs, and depending on if they go to nationals or not, we could see some very interesting things happen down there in PCB. So I think this Evangel team uses this week going into a playoff matchup next week against Lighthouse. They're going to want to make sure they take care of this one early, make sure they can rest some of their guys and get themselves in a good position to make the deepest run possible in both the state and possibly national playoffs.
Yeah, shouldn't have any issue in this one. They're the better team. They're playing their best football of the season. They're healthy. They're refreshed. They've got the confidence. I think they're about to make a deep postseason run as well, and should be the favorites to win the ACSC state championship, obviously, with what they've been able to do. But, yeah, I like the Evangel Lightning to continue their hot stretch of play lately and pick up another win here against Trinity. Well, that does it for our ACSC and AISA breakdown. 3 good matchups yet again this week on our slate. Well, that brings us to our SCR Stars of the Week segment, and another great list of players to mention here. The stats that stand out in the performances here, second to none, and some of the best performances in the state of Alabama. So, Andrew, I turn to you. Let's get your first 2 stars of the week before we get mine, and then our honorable mention there at the end.
Let's go and hit Vincent first, because Landon Archer had a phenomenal performance. I've been hyping up him for a while now. He's an absolute dynamic playmaker, both on the baseball diamond, as we saw in the spring, but on the football field as well. And he's starting to prove that, had to step up into the quarterback spot a couple weeks ago and was able to show himself as a very good option for them in the future. But
I don't even know what position he plays anymore, to be honest with you. He got a running back, wide receiver, quarterback.
You got a lot of guys out here claiming to be athletes. This guy's a true athlete. You could recruit him at just about any position, and he'll go in and do a great job for your football program if he ends up choosing to play that sport, because his baseball arm is arguably even better. But 18 carries for 253 yards and 3 touchdowns. Those are the numbers we've come to expect from Yaden Roberts. You have Landon Archer step in and step up in a big way for this Jackets team. Those are the performances that decide games like against Isabella and are what's going to be crucial for this team going into the playoffs through a 2A classification that's proven to be very tough over the last few years. I definitely like Vincent to be one of those teams, and its performances like Landon Archer's that definitely have me feeling good about the Jackets as a top 10 team going into the playoffs. And then Shelby County, a phenomenal performance last week in their final region game against Selma. They're on the bye this week, but we do want to make sure that we mention Dominic Woods, a standout receiver performance for Shelby County, taking the bulk of the yardage from Ryan Sipes. 5 of those 8 catches that Sipes got over the course of that game came from Dominic Woods, and he took those for 114 yards and 2 touchdowns, scoring touchdowns on about 40% of your touches. A pretty good day overall for a receiver, and to be able to get that dynamic performance overall, just a good standout night from Dominic Woods. So Woods and Archer, my 2 SCR stars.
Yeah, you don't see that very often from Shelby County, to have a standout receiver or a quarterback go over 200 yards, and that's what they had. They had the passing game and rhythm against the Selma team that struggled this year, but that's a dynamic part of this offense that Shelby County hasn't had in a while that could carry them far in the postseason if they're going to have success there. But my first start of the week going to Dom Santiago out at Helena. 27 carries, 243 yards, and a touchdown. Back to the Jordan Washington days and what he was able to do there. Jordan Washington a little bit bigger, a little bit more physical. I say that, a little bit bigger. Santiago's not afraid of that contact. He seeks it out at times. Very physical back, and a great performance for him there with that 1 touchdown to add to the 243 yards. He's finally getting to that point of what we expected from him this year. And we hadn't seen that all year from a consistency standpoint, so it's good to see from him at the running back position there for the Huskies as they move toward the postseason. Kenarigo out at Spain Park, also a big-time performance. 6 catches, 107 yards, and 3 touchdowns for the Jags. A couple of weeks ago, we basically saw that kind of performance from Mason McClure. A few more yards from him in that one, but those two receivers together really creating a dynamic duo for one of the best quarterbacks in the state. That's a dangerous thing to add for the Spain Park Jaguars as they head down the stretch and into the postseason here. So Kenarigo, Dom Santiago, my 2 stars of the week. But we got several others we got to talk about. Trent Seaborn out at Thompson, 20 of 25, 272 yards, 2 passing touchdowns, 1 rushing touchdown. Despite the loss, despite what I said earlier in the show, he continues to be Mr. Consistent. Roll Tide. Dedrick Kimbrough, one of his top targets there. He had a couple of guys that obviously played well, but Kimbrough, 8 receptions, north of 100 yards. He goes for 102 in that one. And then we talked about Ryan Sipes, the quarterback at Shelby County, 8 of 15, 207 yards and 2 touchdowns, ran for an additional 42 yards. If he's able to step up that passing game, that's a dangerous thing for the Shelby County Wildcats. But they've also still got Devin Alexander, running back there, 14 carries, 134 yards, and a touchdown for the Wildcats. That dynamic ability for this offense, if they can throw the football and run the football like that, that's a team that instantly becomes a lot more dangerous going into the postseason there in the 5A classification. So some great performances across the board there. I believe about 8 names that we just mentioned, but the stats stood out tremendously. We go into the final week of region play, the final week of the regular season after that, and then the postseason hits. It's time for the Stars to step up into the spotlight. I have a feeling we're going to see some special performances here over the next several weeks. That brings us to the end of this week's Shelby County High School football show. And Andrew, we got to give our bold predictions as we do every week. And I don't know where you're going to go here. We got, big matchup for Thompson as they look to win a region championship this week against Prattville. You got Briarwood taking on Hayden, looking to possibly win a region championship. You've got some games that don't quite mean as much, but good county battle in Helena, Calera, some other big ones out there as well. Where are we going with our bold prediction this week?
Well, so I've already basically given you mine. I think Montevallo is going to beat Jemison. I still believe that that's going to happen. It's still a bit of a toss-up overall, but I think Montevallo able to come out and use those offensive improvements to make up for the younger, more inexperienced defense and get a win on its home field. What a win that would be for this Bulldogs team. I'm going to go a little bit out of the box for my second one. You got Helena and Calera, 2 really good run-dominant teams. I think that game is our first game done of the night, and I think we're done right around 9 there.
Oh, man, I love a good 9 o'clock finish. Go to the half about 7:55, right before 8 o'clock, yeah.
Yeah, I do think overall we're going to see the run games come out and be dominant. That's really my bold prediction of the week, is that we're going to see the run game take the bulk of the shares. Got guys like Dom Santiago and Jordan Henderson paving the way. Going to be a really, really entertaining game out in Helena, one I'm looking forward to being at this week.
Well, I guess if Andrew's going to give out 2 for free, I got to give out 2 for free.
You don't have to.
As well. The question is, if I get one of them right, does that count toward 100% success rate, or does that count as a 50% success rate?
We're not tracking these, so keep going. Just go.
Yeah, I have no clue what any of them have been throughout the season, but I'm going to remember these 2. One, just simply because they're both going to have an impact on region championships. Briarwood's going to win the region championship on Friday night. I think Corner's going to lose to Carver. Briarwood's going to take care of business. We're sitting right here on the Lions field at Lions Pride Stadium, and I got pride that that's going to happen. The Lions going to walk away as region champions. It's going to be a tall task because that is a very good Corner team that should win the region championship. But it's just, I just feel it in this brisk air out here this morning that that's going to happen and things are going to align for the Briarwood Lions. And then Thompson is going to go out and they are going to be on a mission. I think they shut out Prattville. I think they win this game by 4 scores. Thompson big in this matchup. I gave them the fuel earlier in the show. Hopefully nobody's watching this segment right now because that just ruined all of it.
There's the rat poison.
I went from the fuel to the rat poison all in one show. But, I mean, we've said it before. Freeman, after a loss, this team's different. They're going to be hungry. They're going to be motivated. They're going to be, frankly, pissed off. They're going to go out there ready to punch somebody in the mouth and try to prove a point. I think that's the version of Thompson we get, but more so than the offense, I think that's what we get from their defense. I think that defense has a lot to prove right now, and I'm trusting them to prove that this week. Prattville's a good team. It's a dangerous thing for me to say, but if they come out and they play with that chip on their shoulders defensively, this is a team in Thompson that can make a difference there defensively. So those are two bold predictions. I'm already laughing at myself a little bit because I have a feeling I'm going to be a little embarrassed at some point on Friday night, but it's going to be a lot of fun to see what actually does unfold. It's been a great season so far. We end region play this week, the regular season next week. The weather's cooling off. It's going to be a fun postseason stretch where we hope to have several teams make a deep run here in the playoffs during the 2025 season. We'll be back with you on Friday night. A little bit off kilter the last couple of weeks with our show, but plan to have a full force with us. Daniel and Andrew did great with the live show last week. We'll be live on location once again this week on Friday night with the pregame show and all of our great Friday night coverage. Until then, he's Andrew Simonson. I'm Alec Etheridge. Thank you for tuning in to the Shelby County High School Football Show.